All right, students. In this video, we'll solve systems of linear equations by the substitution method. Before we start, let me thank you all again for all of your hard work. You're turning in a ton of homework. You're showing your work in exactly the right ways. Keep up these good practices. Here's a system of linear equations. I've got two equations. Each one has an x and a y. But I'm supposed to solve by the substitution method. When we solve by substitution, I like to take this system and rewrite it so that the two equations are side by side. I'll put the first equation here and the second equation here. Now look at the variables. There's a y, there's an x, there's an x, there's a y, but this is the variable I want to focus on because it's all by itself. If that variable is alone, then that's where I want to make my substitution back here. If y is by itself here, we'll substitute for y here. How do I do that? Well, I'll copy the 2x, I'll copy the minus 3y, and I'll copy the negative 11. Except instead of the y, I just open up a big space. And what goes in that space? Well, what is y equal to? Y is equal to 4x minus 3. So I'll substitute in the 4x minus 3. That's why we call this the substitution method. Now let's clean up a little. I'll copy the negative 11. I'll copy the 2x. And let's take this negative 3 and distribute once, distribute twice. Negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x. And negative 3 times negative 3, two negatives make a positive. We'll combine like terms. Combine 2x and negative 12x is negative 10x. The inverse of addition is subtraction. Positive 9 and negative 9 is 0 plus negative 10x. Negative 11 and negative 9 is negative 20. Now divide. (20) divided by 10 is 2, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. There's my answer for x. I'm not done, however, until I also have an answer for y. To get my answer for y, let's come back to this equation and substitute 2 in for x. If x is 2, then I can substitute 2 in for x here. And I'll have 4 times 2 minus 3. 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 minus 3 is 5. There's my value for y. Now, since I've got an x value and a y value, let's show the final answer as an ordered pair, where x was 2 and y was 5. There's the x and y values that if I plugged them in there would make that equation true, and if I plugged them in there would make that equation true. Let's try another example by the substitution method. I'll copy my two equations side by side. There's the first. And there's the second. Now look at the variables. And the variable I'll focus on is that x, because it's all by itself. If I've got a variable all by itself, that's where I want to make my substitution in the other equation. X alone there, substitute for x here. So I'll rewrite this as 5x plus 6y equals negative 2. But instead of x, I open up a space. And what goes in the space? Well, what is x equal to? X is equal to negative 3y plus 5. negative 3y plus 5. All right, let's clean up. We'll keep the negative 2 here. I'll take this 5 and distribute. 5 times negative 3y, 5 times 5. 5 times negative 3y is negative 15y. 5 times 5 is 25, and I'll copy the 6y. Now combine like terms. Negative 15y and positive 6y is negative 9y. I'll copy the plus 25. The inverse of addition is subtraction. Positive 25 and negative 25 is 0, plus negative 9y. Negative 2 and negative 27, negative 25 is negative 27. Now divide. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. My y value is a positive 3. To get the x value, I'll come back to this equation. And I know that y is equal to 3, so I can substitute 3 in for y right here. I'll have x equals, I'll plug in 3 for y, negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9, and negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. Now I've got an x value and a y value, so we'll show these as an ordered pair, where x is negative 4, y is 3. There's the x value and the y value that would satisfy either one of those two equations. All right, wrap up your homework, send it off to me. You've done a great job. I'll see you next week.